Hello again, everybody. Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this No Kings Wednesday, and here's why. The great Julie Lynn is standing by. The great Julie Lynn is standing by. We're going to talk about No Kings March, rally, celebration, protest, whatever you want to call it, that's occurring this Saturday, not on a Wednesday. We're recording this on a Wednesday. We'll get into that. I just want to get something off my mind that I just literally read this in the New York Times about an hour or so ago. And Julie's not going to be discussing this in any way, shape, or form. She knows nothing about what I'm about to say. And so I always love to do that to guests. I bring them on the show to talk about one thing, and then I talk about something else at the start of the show. Keeps them on their toes. Got to be on your toes, guests. Okay. So this is a story, an extensive investigation in the New York Times about one of my favorite topics, the ongoing saga of Jeffrey Epstein. As anybody who listens to my show knows, fascinated by this topic, what it says about America, what it says about wealth, what it says about politics, what it says about media, celebrity, etc., and so forth. And a shout out right now to Julia Brown, another who brought, without her, I don't even know if we have a Jeffrey Epstein saga. She's the intrepid Miami reporter who broke the story, did a major investigation in 2018, I want to say, about how Jeffrey Epstein played the system to get away with a slap on the wrist, if that, for charges from 2008, I guess it was, yeah. And everything's sort of, mushroom from there. This one tells the tale of Jeffrey Epstein's relationship with a gentleman named Leon Black. And in talking to people about it, I realized not a lot of people know who Leon Black is. He's a capitalist. Let's just sum it up by that. Fabulously wealthy, worth I don't know how many billions of dollars, and put together an organization, an outfit, Apollo Global, excuse me, and was very active in the arts world. Was the chair of the board of the Museum of Modern Art. Owns hundreds of famous paintings worth a fortune. He's also kind of a sleazy dude, to put it mildly, and has had many embarrassing run-ins, if you will, regarding women. And he turned to Jeffrey Epstein for advice down through the years. All kinds of advice on taxes, advice on public relations, advice on how to deal with lawsuits from women who are accusing him of assault, etc. I'll just read you this litany of the things he turned to Jeffrey Epstein for down through the years that is in this article. Mr. Epstein suggested ways to obscure millions of dollars that Mr. Black paid to women, as well as to Mr. Epstein himself. He brainstormed about how to avoid taxes on some of the payments. He took credit for diffusing a government audit of a woman to whom Mr. Black had paid millions of dollars. He planned ways to surveil, intimidate, and silence another woman who was threatening to publicly accuse Mr. Black of abuse. He even counseled Mr. Black to separate from his wife after she learned of his infidelity. Mr. Black paid about $20 million to a dozen women, at least some of whom he had sexual relationships with, according to the recently released files and notes taken by the congressional investigators and shared with the Times. Mr. Epstein was involved in figuring out ways to dispense a significant portion of that money. Mr. Epstein summed it up to Mr. Black in a 2017 email. Epstein's job, as he saw it, was partly about, quote, saving you from yourself, end of quote. I'm like, what is it about Jeffrey Epstein that these fantastically wealthy people threw their money at him? And this is like a bigger topic in many ways, and we'll get into No Kings, but it's kind of related to No Kings, Julie Lynn, in this. In some ways, our society, not to get too deep with you, is very poisoned and very corrupt. And it's like we only address that corruption when it pops into our face, like when we can't avoid it. And so all these fabulously wealthy people were turning to Jeffrey Epstein down through the years. And then when it became an embarrassment, they said, we didn't know. Oh, my, you're kidding me. I didn't know. And I don't believe one of them. I do not believe one of them. I believe they all knew. I believe that's part of the attraction they had to Epstein. I don't know how deep they took it. But this notion that somehow or other they didn't know what he was up to is in itself unbelievable. So, okay, I understand, guys. You're attracted to him because he surrounds himself with young women, in some cases, teenagers. I get you're all got a little perversion going there. But why do you turn to him for tax assistance? Okay, this is part of the. You can get an accountant for like, I don't know, a tenth of the price to give you the same advice. I used to say this to property people all the time. Julie Lynn, now you're really hearing me riff. I used to tell these property guys, far wealthier than me, far more successful than me, why are you hiring Ed Burke to handle your property tax appeal? You know, any kid out of law school, you don't even have to go to law school. Any person who's like logical and has an elementary command of numbers could handle it. I think 3 of my producers that I know that produced me this podcast would be great at property tax appeals. Their brain worked that way, including the young man who's producing this one right now, producer Chris. Why would you go to Ed Burke or Michael Maddow? Well, and then this one they were real. Well, Ben, you don't understand. And then they would explain when they're done. I'm like, oh my God, it's a form of bribery. You're giving your business to Burke or Maddow and you go to anybody else, but in a way that's like you're hoping to get something back for it. That's how the system works. Everybody looks the other way, and then they get caught, and everybody's like, oh my God, I didn't know. But this Epstein thing is so deep and entangled. A guy like Leon Black goes to Epstein for advice on absolutely everything, all the sleaze stuff, but he's also seeking advice from him on taxes. I forget, the New York Times figured out how much he paid Epstein over the years. I forget how many millions of dollars that he's paid him over there. Some fantastic. Oh, Mr. Black paid Epstein $170 million over 6 years for what Black says were tax and estate planning services. The sum dwarfed what elite law or accounting firms would have charged for similar work, baffling both his Wall Street peers and investigators on Capitol Hill. Fucking twisted stuff, my friends. Very twisted stuff in so many ways. All right, Julie Lynn, thank you for sitting through that brilliant oration. I appreciate your patience. I know this is not a topic that you want to address in any way. So first, welcome back to the show.
Thanks so much.
And we will get into the topics that you are prepared to discuss. As folks know who listen to the show on a regular basis, Julie Lynn is my go-to person for any information about abortion. Particularly the politics of abortion and the way the game is played politically from one state to the next and nationally. She's, in my humble opinion, number one in this area in the country. Yes, I said that. So I don't go to, but unlike Leon Black, I don't go to her for tax advice.
No, you're definitely
I'm not going to hire her to handle my property taxes. Sorry.
If you need an abortion, you can call me, but not for your taxes.
I'm gonna go to. Yes, sir. All right, Julie. Focus, Ben. Focus. No Kings is coming up, and so why don't you start by giving some basics, like if people want to go to the demonstration, the rally, protest, whatever you're calling it, where they should go, when they should go, and then let's talk about the goals. And why it's so important, et cetera, and so forth. So let's start with the basics. Go ahead.
The basics are, it's this Saturday at 1:30 at Grant Park. People are meeting up around Jackson and Columbus, and there's going to be speakers and marching afterwards. So bring your signs, wear your comfortable shoes, bring a water bottle, be ready to get activated and to be in community with people who are as pissed off as you are.
That is great. Be in community with people who are as pissed off as you are. Talk about the community and talk about what they're being pissed off about. Go ahead.
The community, I would say, are people who have seen their neighbors tear gas, who have been tear gassed themselves, who are pissed about gas prices, grocery prices, rights being taken away from any group that you name, that we don't live in a country where there is a king, but we've been subjected to be subjects essentially, in a place where a king thinks that he exists. And so fighting back against this regime that is in the White House that has taken over the federal government is what people will be talking about on Saturday, and rising up in the streets just as they have done, over and over since this administration took office this time, as well as the last time.
The king in question is, in case you were wondering, Donnie Trump, the president of the United States. Just in case there was a few people out there who didn't know the king. It's not Elvis Presley, all right? Sorry, Julie, I couldn't help myself. So, all right. Wow, there is such a long list of things that I am upset about Donald Trump for what he's done. And you mentioned like the first one at the top of the list was sending ICE. You didn't specify, but that's what you were getting at. And to crack down on people, just to harass people in blue cities. How much, in your humble opinion, do you think that is still an issue right now? I'm watching Donald Trump trying to move away from it, act as though he is moderating his tone. Got rid of Christy Nome, got rid of Bovino, and I'm like, I don't think this is going to work with the public. Your thoughts?
Yeah, you cut off one head and another one grows in its place. And with that too, just one person isn't the cause of all of this mayhem and all of this fear and awful that is happening across the country related to ICE. I mean, we have ICE agents in our airports that, the idea just came out on Friday and then boom, it's happening on Monday. When have you ever known government to move that quickly? It's crazy to think of. And so, sure, I mean, he can say whatever he wants about whatever he wants, but the cliche of actions speak louder than words are very real. And he's a really good manipulative communicator, and he says anything. So I don't think that getting rid of Christie or getting rid of Bovino is going to change anything. People are never going to forget that feeling, whether they were there or whether they were watching it, of kids in Halloween costumes being tear gassed while they were trick-or-treating. That's not a thing that you ever think that you were going to see in our lifetimes in this country, in an American city's neighborhood. And then you take it to another extreme of people being killed by their government. And that's not something you forget. And that happened here. It wasn't just in Minneapolis. People were killed here.
So what message, who do you think is the recipient of the message you want to send on Saturday? Who are you trying to reach?
It's a great question, because I think trying to reach people is really hard. And also people, sadly, I think are becoming numb to a lot of things, because of the horrors that you do see. We're almost just like, oh, there it is, it happened again. And that should never be a mentality when this type of thing is happening. There needs to be a level of empathy that this country feels for its neighbors. So I would say continuing to bring people into that community of empathy and care for their neighbors, for people who don't necessarily look like them, for an experience that they will hopefully never have, but other people are still having. And then also elected officials, the ones that will hopefully stand up for something that they know in their core is wrong of what's happening. It's scary to think that people who are in charge of our laws and our policies and our societies are just going along with this. And, elections don't happen every day. So these people are here and we have to deal with it. So while they're here, they need to keep hearing people's messages and getting phone calls or emails or showing up at their office doors to be pissed.
Do you think that, all right, when you talk about reaching elected officials, I'm going to separate it into two camps. One, there's so basic. One, there's the Democrats, and the other is Republicans. You could put 10 gazillion people in Soldier Field. I don't think you could fit them all, but let's say you could. And I don't think Republicans would move.
I don't
Uh,
think some Democrats would move, and you need to be real about that. Like, just because somebody has a D next to their name doesn't mean they're going to do, I'm using air quotes, listeners, for the right thing. Um, there could even be someone with an R next to their name that does the right thing. I think that we are way beyond that. Blue no matter who. That's not a thing.
wow. I still, I'm gonna, okay, you put me down this path. Um, I have an instinctive reaction at an election, Julie, where, and this is the boomer in me speaking. When it comes down right now to a Republican versus a Democrat, I'm blue no matter who. And I say that knowing, like, I know what you're thinking. Oh, Ben, would you vote for Rahm Emanuel? I knew that's on your mind. That's what you were going to say, Julie. Would you vote for Rahm Emanuel over Darren Bailey if they were running for?
Yeah, I mean, there's always the hypothetical. I think about our conversation a while ago when we went through the list of 10 abortion ballot amendments that were happening in 2024, and you asked me which ones I would vote for. And I said I would only vote for 3. And this shocked you.
Yeah.
But it's true. Like, just because it's giving you the least, I don't want it.
Yeah. And by the way, I would vote for Thomas Massey over Rahm Emanuel. I just thought about it. I thought about Thomas Massey, Republican congressman. I don't agree with him on anything, but he's standing up to Trump and he shows principle. And he's anti-war, or at least he's anti-war if you don't get congressional authority for the war, which amounts to being anti-war. So there you go. Having just said, look at that. I contradicted myself within the course of 2 minutes, Julie.
It's not a contradiction. It's a conversation. And that's what I think it's really important. It gets you thinking. So many people are so stuck in their lane or stuck in their thing. But once you start, letting the juices flow, you're like, oh, and maybe it makes a little sense.
Yeah. Okay, Thomas Massey is one. There's the Tillis of North Carolina, but he's quitting. I'm not going to say Adam Kinzinger because Heidi Henry, one of my listeners up in Northern Illinois, Ben, don't give him any credit. All right, Heidi. Okay. So, all right, let's deal with the Democrats. I hear what you're saying. The Democrats, a lot of the knees, they get shaking. I watched this last Democratic Senate race. In Illinois, Raja, Robin, and Julie Lynn. I was smiling because they saw where their Democratic electorate were. They saw where the voters were. And they realized in the case of like Raja suddenly was like, I'm going to stand up to Trump. I'm going to ban ICE. I'm the man. I'm like, man, you never took a stand on anything. What are you talking about? And then all of a sudden, Juliana, I don't know if you saw producer Chris, I'm not going to swear because Dennis might drop this. The F Trump commercial, and I to this day think that propelled her to sort of like the top of the list. Yes, I do believe that. So Democrats, man, they get so wishy-washy and scared. They go to that Bill Clinton, like, let's just I'm just gonna move to the right and that'll win over that swing voter. Their inner David Axelrod is talking to them in their brain and they can't help themselves. I assume that the No King March is also trying to keep them in line as well, correct?
Keep who in line?
Those wishy-washy Dems who are always going to move to the right every chance they get. Ben, you got to look at it on both sides.
I think
kind of Dem.
Totally. And I think that the No King's March this time, just like the other huge mobilizations that this coalition has put together, is going to talk about what they want. They're not necessarily going to talk about what they're against, but what they want to see happen out of their elected leaders, out of this administration, out of their own communities. And so, yeah, they're not going to be wishy-washy about it. This is what they want, and they are putting a line in the sand about it.
Yeah. And we can make the switch to the abortion issue, and Julie knows where I'm going to go with this, because my eyes were open on wishy-washy Dems. This is before Julie was born. And That's how old I am. And I watched the debate over the Henry Hyde Amendment. I talk about this in the show all the time, where Dems sell out for like they're going to cut a deal, they get something passed. More to the point, they're going to diffuse the Republicans' attack on them. And so they sell out and betray a principle they supposedly have in order to diffuse an attack. And they end up diluting whatever issue they're supposedly championing. In the case of the Henry Hyde Amendment, that was the amendment that banned public dollars to be spent on abortion. So suddenly they were saying, oh, abortion is this horrific thing that taxpayers should not be required to spend money on because if it violates their consciousness. And the Dems are like, yeah, we agree with that. As opposed to a medical service. Do you follow what I'm saying, Julie? And so that's where wishy-washy. That's an example that, right, in your lane, that you would understand. That is an example. Go ahead.
Or DHS funding, like, or a strongly worded letter that they keep sending with these government shutdowns and all of that. Like, no, stand your ground. Have something to fight for. And don't just cave. And then you're just going to keep chipping away at the thing that you actually have some power over. But no, they're writing strongly worded letters.
Wow. Yeah. Strongly worded. When you look at it, let me ask you this. Is there something that you wish the Dems had done in the last year to stand up to Trump and Trump's initiatives in Congress that they didn't do?
I mean, what did they do?
Wrote strongly worded letters.
Right. That's not doing anything.
Yeah. But that's the question of what could they do is one that challenges me. So he is a king. He's been acting like a king.
Right.
He defies the courts. He controls Congress. He controls the Senate. I don't know what Dems could do.
I think about the Texas Dems when they were doing the gerrymandering and they, left town. Sure, they ended up going back, but like that was a really powerful moment. And I think it encouraged people in a place like Texas where Democrats have no power to use the little power that they had. Mm-hmm. And no, I don't think it was just a publicity stunt. I think it was to rile up people of like, okay, these are the people that are fighting and they're actually fighting. Mm-hmm. And they're not just sitting there, writing strongly worded letters. They're getting on airplanes and they're leaving because in protest of something that they don't want to happen.
Yeah.
And so maybe Congress could have done that, or who knows? I don't know the, procedural brouhaha of Congress, but like that feels like a good start.
Well, I give credit to on the local level, Mayor Johnson and Mayor Biss in Evanston, who directly confront ICE agents and did not back down. So that's an example of what and I'm sure there were aides, but definitely aides to Brandon Johnson. He's been criticized. Well, why can't you be more like Mamdani, man? Get along with Donald Trump. And so I give Mayor Johnson, that's an example. I asked you the question, for example. To me, that's an example.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? I'm not going to bow on this issue. I'm not going to pretend it doesn't exist. And I'm not going to go show up at the White House like for a dog and pony show with you. All right. Before we leave No Kings and go to some abortion updates, who are some of the speakers that will be at the demonstration? And okay.
I know that there's some musical people that are going to be there. I don't have all of the names in front of me because I think they were trying to keep it a little tight of who is going to be speaking. Rick Wilson, I know, is one, a Chicago-born rapper. And I think it's going to be a lot of community partners that are going to be involved. It's not going to be your usual lineup of, elected officials who are, touting their thing. It's going to be people who are impacted by this and wanting to get their message out for themselves and for their communities.
I think that's actually a good idea. um, move away from elected officials on this stage. Although I'm sure there will be some that are there. All right, let's get that update. And if you had to write a headline of the most outrageous infringement on abortion rights in this country at the moment, or maybe the top three, what would they be?
One would be Josh Hawley and his wife Erin needing to just go on vacation and never come back. I would like them. I call her the Phyllis Schlafly of our time. For those who don't know, she is a anti-abortion lawyer who argued the Dobbs decision and has argued many anti-abortion and anti-trans cases that have made it to the Supreme Court. And he has introduced a bill in Congress to remove FDA approval of mifepristone. And he's doing this because she couldn't get it done in the courts because she made a ridiculous lawsuit that that the court said didn't have any standing because they had hypothetical patients in it. And so now he's trying to move banning mifepristone in Congress. And one of the reasons I think that this is happening is because medication abortion is extremely popular for people because whether they're living in banned states or they're living even in Southern Illinois, where there are few brick and mortar clinics, then they're able to access medication via mail or, just driving, grabbing it, and then going back home or getting it from a pharmacy. So Josh Hawley from, everyone's favorite state, Missouri, is doing that. Another one I would say is more states are putting more ridiculous bills or putting forward more ridiculous bills in state legislatures that in the hopes that people are going to think that they're ridiculous, but they actually are getting traction. For example, charging abortion patients with homicide. Yes, even in Illinois, the land of good and plenty, that bill was introduced. No, it's not going to go anywhere. But the more things start happening like this and the more common they are, then the less ridiculous it's going to be when they actually start passing. In 2019, a Missouri state senator introduced a travel ban. At the time, people thought it was crazy, but now 7 years later, those travel bans exist and patients are not able to move freely in their states to leave for abortion.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that bill that you just said it's not going to go anywhere in Illinois. It's just sort of the games that are being played around the issue of abortion, and I'll back it up by saying the last few times Julie was on the show, we talked at length about how Trump realized as he was heading into the 2024 cycle that he had to distance himself from the loudest anti-abortion foes in the country. And he had to repackage the Dobbs decision in such a way as to make it pro-choice. And he was successful at this to a certain degree by, first of all, saying something so absurd, Julie, it's just so such a lie that everybody applauded the Dobbs decision because it put abortion issue back to the states. That's where everybody wanted it to be. And no. First of all, not everybody was applauding it. And by far, not everybody wanted it to go back to the states. And so if you live in a state where abortion's legal, that's your decision. If you live in a state where it's illegal, that's your decision. Okay. So it's all well. And that apparently worked. Got enough dumb voters to vote for him. Julie may not agree with me calling him dumb.
No, I do.
Okay. In this case, she does.
No, I do, because and we talked about this too, because those same voters voted for ballot amendments in their states thinking that they were protecting abortion, but then voting for him and voting for the anti-abortion local politicians who were going to do nothing to make sure that that amendment came into effect.
That is correct.
So I am perfectly okay calling them dumb voters.
Okay. Thank you. You're the only guest who's ever agreed with me on that Most guys chide me, Ben. You sound like a boomer. I am a
Well,
boomer.
I'll make one caveat.
Uh-oh.
One defense of voters.
Yes.
They're reacting to the message that they are given. So when they have campaigns saying to them, you can vote for this ballot amendment and abortion will be protected, and don't say anything about anything else, then that's what they're going to focus on.
Yeah. Well, okay. So that's the equivalent of me voting for a politician because I believe what she told me. Okay. Yeah. And by that, I'm dumb. Okay, there you go, people. I've done that. All right. Uh, uh, anyway, so Donald Trump, he was successful. He was, even though there was that string of elections on ballot amendments, in which voters in one state after another uh, took a pro-choice stand. Donald Trump was victorious. He somehow or other diffused that election, and then boom, what do we see in Illinois? This proposal to make it a crime to have an abortion. And you go, well, it's not going to go anywhere. I go, well, I don't know. We got a gubernatorial election coming up in November. J.B. Pritzker is running for reelection. Um, I happen to think that he's kind of vulnerable right now because he's trying to do too many things at once. I've believed this from the get-go. You can disagree with me vehemently if you want. Running for president while running for reelection, I don't know. It's kind of tough. He's running against Darren Bailey. He beat him last time, but Darren Bailey is softening his tone in preparation for this election. He was vehemently anti-abortion the last time around. Now it seems like he's just not going to talk about the issue, which is the conventional way Republicans go when they're running in a state like Illinois. Well, I'm just not. It's not really an issue. It's not a really. But back in the last go around, DB was saying it is an issue, and I'm going to try to outlaw it. And I was like, well, it's not an issue now. But meanwhile, you got that bill, Julie. So if Darren Bailey is elected governor, what's he going to do on that bill? So I'm going to push back with you. I don't agree with you that I'm not into saying it's not going to go anywhere. If Darren Bailey wins, it could come back. Go ahead.
So at least we can only trust him on his word so far. But Darren Bailey even said that bill was too extreme. And so that, I think, was maybe a strategic move on his part. So it seems like he is doing the most while actually doing the least. And he's making it seem like he doesn't want to punish people. He doesn't want this to happen. No woman should go to jail for exercising her right. But in the back of his mind, he still wants abortion banned. So he wants it banned. He just doesn't want you to go to jail over it.
Which, by the way, if you view, we've had this conversation, it's kind of inconsistent. You know what I mean? If you believe it is murder, then you should go to jail for it. I personally don't believe that. Do you feel there's just like an existential threat in the state of Illinois in this coming election over this issue?
I think there's always a threat over this issue, always, because just like you were talking about with Hyde, somebody could get in office, whether it be governor or the legislature, starts, becoming less pro-abortion. That starts, being wishy-washy on things. I think that there are other issues that they do get wishy-washy on things. Gender affirming care, for example, that has definitely been a challenge for a lot of legislatures and a lot of people to understand the conversation. And I think that what we're seeing in the anti-trans movement right now is what we saw 20, 30 years ago in the anti-abortion movement. It's the exact same playbook. They're coming for young people first, and then you start chipping away until there's nothing left.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. And I actually do not believe the softening act. I do not believe Darren Bailey is capable of softening his worldview on abortion. He may be following the advice of political consultants and strategists to say, tone down some of your rhetoric. But unless I hear him say that I have gone through some kind of change in my mind and now view abortion as a legitimate procedure. Even if he adopts the Clinton line. What was that Clinton line? Bill Clinton thought he
Oh,
was so
safe,
slick.
legal, and rare.
God.
But I don't think that he's changing his position on abortion itself. I think, and I do kind of remember him saying at one point that women should be punished over this, similar to Trump's line over it. So that position has changed. But his position on banning abortion, I don't believe has changed at all. It's just what the punishment for it should be.
Yeah, yeah. If there should, yeah, and he did advise the state rep. I can't remember who it was, not to push it. And then the bill got buried. And I don't know if Democrats were smart, then probably take it out and have put it to a vote and force the issue. What do you think about that idea?
Oh, then we would have to sit in floor debate and listen to that. Listening to those are exhausting and disgusting. The things that come out of anti-abortion people's mouths during this are so hypocritical and so disgusting. Do you remember in 2019 when they had Avery Bourne stand up there for 4 hours with her 8.5-month pregnant self and put her on display for everyone to see to talk about an abortion bill?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember that one. And I also remember when Tammy Duckworth was running for reelection, and it was in the debate. Yeah, I can't now it's slipping. Who was pounding her on this issue? It looked absurd and ridiculous. And So yes, I do know it is horrific. Well, just so you know, Julie, I have a hard time. I'm confessing to you, listening to about 90% of the debates because I feel the other side is so dishonest. And
It's hypocrisy. I mean, especially with this issue, they will always bring up race, always. And then you have elected officials of color saying, having to combat that and
yeah,
having to say, okay, you're so interested in talking about race and this issue and how abortion is hurting them, but what are we doing about race in the larger sphere of our lives?
yeah,
And they have nothing to say.
yeah.
Speaking of the gubernatorial race, I recommend going back and watching Christian Mitchell's HB 40 floor speech on this very issue. It was he did an excellent job.
So Christian Mitchell is now our lieutenant governor. And at the time he gave that speech, I assume he was a state representative from a district on the near south side. And if JB does get elected president of the United States in 2028, Christian Mitchell presumably will be our next governor. So presuming, of course, that JB, there's a lot of presumptions in that JB beats Darren Bailey in November, etc. Oh my God, HB 40. Just you got to tell people what HB 40. You can't just throw it out there. Just remind people what HB 40 was. We talked about it so much
Yeah.
on the podcast. Go ahead.
HB 40 was a bill in 2017 sponsored by Sarah Feigenholtz to have Medicaid cover abortion, state Medicaid cover abortion. So again, full circle, going back to the conversation about Hyde, Illinois is one of, I think, maybe 20-ish states now, maybe less, that have state Medicaid coverage for abortion services, which is huge. And it has made abortion so much more accessible to low-income people. And it's really great. Republican Governor Bruce Rauner was the governor at the time. And actually, it was my birthday. It was April 13th, 2017, that he said that he was going to veto the bill. And that then turned into a summer of just huge organizing to ensure that he actually did sign it, which he did.
Oh my God. Yeah. And shout out TC. Terry Cosgrove was all over that issue at the time. He was the head of Personal PAC. And Bruce Rauner ran as a pro-choice Republican. And he's pretty much he won because he was a pro-choice Republican. I stand by that. He defeated Pat Quinn because he was able to diffuse the issue of abortion rights. He was be able to say with some degree of legitimacy to moderate voters in the suburbs I will not take away abortion rights in Illinois. I'll stand by you. I've always supported abortion rights. I've always donated to, like, I think Planned Parenthood, and maybe even personal PAC, and so you don't have to worry about that with me. And I know you don't care if I destroy unions, because all you care about is abortion. And this is me talking, not Julie. And he got elected, uh, and uh, and then he backtracked because he was feeling the pressure from the right in his own party, and so Terry and others held his feet to the fire for all that summer, and he finally went back to his original position, which is I'll support it. And then the right never forgave him, and that gets to this. Do you see any hope in the Republican Party returning to a support for women's right to choose? There used to be a lot of pro-choice Republicans when I was a
Oh,
kid.
yeah.
I can't think of
I mean,
any now.
in my time of working in this space, there were in Illinois. I mean, we had a U.S. senator who was Kirk, who was pro-abortion. I met with him and discussed it. I don't know. I really don't. Like, even just talking about the things that we've discussed about, Republicans and some Democrats supporting what ICE is doing across the country is outrageous. And so to think that they would support something like that to then support medical care is crazy,
Yeah.
and the fact that when they voted for Trump's budget bill, like, they're cool with taking away healthcare for people, and this is healthcare. So I don't see the Republican Party as it is right now to do it.
So, folks, I don't know if you've been listening to this, and I would love for Julie to riff on this, what I'm about to say. So I keep calling it pro-choice because I'm an old boomer and I was trained by the Terry Cosgroves of the world. You never say abortion, always say pro-choice. Julie's a younger generation, and they have a different worldview, okay? And so she calls it pro-abortion. I keep saying pro-choice, old boomer. And Julie says pro-abortion. Talk about that distinction, Julie Lynn.
I think that the reproductive rights movement has done a disservice to abortion over its many years, and that is to perpetuate stigma. And when you don't say what you're talking about, then it further stigmatizes what you are trying to talk about. If you just reference choice, I don't know what you're talking about. If you're referencing reproductive freedom, I don't know what you're talking about. But if I say to you pro-abortion, you know what I'm talking about. And and I am pro-abortion, and there's nothing wrong with referencing like that. But also, I think choice is a tough word because for a lot of people, this is not a choice. It's a life or death situation that they need relief from. They're not making a choice. They are making a decision about how they're going to live their lives, but it's not a choice. It's not an option to carry this pregnancy. So that's really at the root of the importance of that. And for people who are pro-abortion, they should say it. They shouldn't shy away from it. I do think that language changes over a generation. Nancy Pelosi spoke at the personal PAC lunch last year and never ever said the word once. Didn't even say pro-choice. She just kept saying a right to choose. And choice, and it was notable.
That's old school.
Right. And so,
Yeah.
even when people talk about like the issue of choice, what is that?
No, I hear you loud and clear. In fact, I Kamala Harris's coronation over the summer in Chicago at the Democratic Convention, when they addressed the issue of reproductive rights.
Reproductive freedom is how they talk
Yeah,
about it.
freedom. Thank you. That's how they talked about it. It was choice. It was liberty. They were accentuating those things, and then they talked about it in terms of health. They talked about it in terms of a woman's life could be endangered by it, or a woman's psychological, mental well-being could be endangered by it if you force her to carry to birth a child uh, of a rapist. And they talked about it in those terms. Nobody talked about it in like economic terms, like, God damn, this kid's gonna be cost a lot of money. Nobody talked about it. It's like social, like a psychological terms. Like I can't deal with this. I just have to move on. Which, by the way, is what thousands and thousands and thousands of people do, Julie, in the real world. But you're not allowed to because you're right. We bought into the stigma. Am I correct?
Absolutely. And I think, the Harris campaign did a terrible job of talking about abortion, in my opinion. They did not connect it to an economic issue when that's all anybody wanted to talk about was the economy during that race. But they didn't connect the dots, is that when you have full control of your body and your life, you are able then to participate in the economy in a different way than if you did not. They also, in all of the references that you just gave, it's the exceptionalism of abortion that they always leaned into about the life of the mother, or rape and incest, whatever it might be. Somebody might just not want to be pregnant.
Yeah.
And that's perfectly okay.
Yeah. Can you think of any politician, and I actually cannot think of one right now, so help me out here, who has championed abortion rights? Huh? How about that, Julie?
Yep.
Who has championed abortion rights as an economic issue?
Yes. Peggy Flanagan in Minnesota. She is the current lieutenant governor and is running for U.S. Senate. She talks about abortion as if I wrote the remarks for her. I saw her speak once, and I have since fallen in love. She just talks about it in a way that is so authentic and just so real for people to understand. She's not coming at it of like this traumatic story, which yes, those traumatic stories do exist, but she talks about it as a 45-year-old woman who just didn't want to be pregnant. Or she talks about her low-income mother, or her, her various people in her life that she's come in contact with, that just, the access to abortion has changed their lives. I mean, Gloria Steinem wrote about this in one of her books, that when she was 21 and in London, that she was able to have an illegal abortion. And because of that, she is Gloria Steinem.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm talking about politicians. I know that, writers have talked about this, or activists have talked about, I'm talking about elected officials. So,
Cori Bush, she's one. She talks about her abortion that she had in St. Louis at the Planned Parenthood clinic there, and how it completely changed her life in her early 20s. And she was able to have the life and the family that she wanted, and then become a member of Congress because of access to abortion.
Former Congresswoman Cori Bush from St. Louis should have reelected her St. Louis voters. All right. I will just mention this. I guess I have to take a moment to say something totally out of left field. I am currently reading a novel. I can't wait to read it. I don't know if you're a novel reader, Julie, or are you strictly nonfiction? Seems like most people in politics are strictly nonfiction. But I love novels, and so it's a book. It's very popular right now. I think it's number 3 in the bestseller list. Last I looked, it's called Kin by Tayari Jones, and so I urge everybody, if you're into novels, run, don't walk. If you can't afford buying it, go to the library, get on that waiting list, because it's a long waiting list. All right, but it takes place in the 50s. And into the early 60s in the South, and most of the characters are Black, and abortion is throughout the book, references, and it's just as you said, it's like a fact of life. Okay, and I'm not talking about state-regulated abortions, Julie. I'm talking about like midwives doing abortions. Like, where do you go when you just cannot have this child? Okay, and there's no stigma to it or at all. It's just very quiet. Like, where do I have to go? Oh, you go to this lady will take care of you in small towns, and then in the bigger city, you got to find a white doctor. I mean, they draw the distinction, but it gets to the heart of when you were on that riff earlier about we don't want to talk about it as abortion because there's this stigma to it, but so many people want to get access to it, including a lot of the men who impregnate the women, and they go, here's we even know if Donald Trump paid for an abortion, but you know what I'm saying? Here
Well,
you go.
even the anti-abortion people, they sometimes need it too. I mean, my favorite thing that I've seen from protesters is a T-shirt that said, "I regret both my abortions."
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, and when I
Yeah.
advocate for abortion rights, I'm advocating for those folks too.
Yeah.
Like they should have the same access that anybody else should have. And I mean, that's what
Yeah.
it comes down to.
Yeah, they didn't regret it when they got it, that's for sure.
Enough
Uh,
that they got another one.
yeah, yeah, exactly. That is the point. Now, I wanted to hear you, confront, uh I don't think I've ever heard you riff on this. So here you go, get ready. I'm prompted, ladies and gentlemen. Ben Joravsky Show. Here comes a curveball. I could respond, but I wanna hear you respond. So, earlier, I came face to face with this, rhetoric in, I think it was '76, maybe '77, I've lost track of time. Whenever the Hyde Amendment was being debated. It was
It was
this
76
'76, wow, give me credit.
from
Uh,
Illinois' own Henry Hyde.
Henry Hyde, yes, 8th, was it the 8th? No,
6.
6, very good, DuPage County. Alright, let's see who's the current, congressperson from that district?
Gaston.
There, dang! Okay. Think about how much change demographically think about that, Julie, from Henry Hyde to Sean Cast. Anyway, I came face to face for the first time with the argument that you cannot ask a taxpayer to see his or her tax dollars provide a service that they are so fundamentally opposed to. This is the central argument. I heard Joey Biden articulate this. That Joe Biden, that guy, remember the president, Joe Biden, when he was a senator and had full command of his brain? He said that. I heard him say it. Well, yeah, you can't. Yeah, you can't. So, what is your response to that argument? Go ahead.
That taxpayers shouldn't pay for stuff that they don't want to pay for.
That is correct.
That's how taxes work. You pay for all kinds of stuff that you don't pay for, that you don't utilize. I pay taxes. I don't have a kid. My things that I pay for go to schools, go to various things. That's how it goes.
Well, no, the argument is not utilization. So let me, yes, but you would argue, most people would argue that even if I don't have a child in a public school, I see a larger public good out of educating children. So I'm happy my taxes would go there, even if I'm not directly benefiting from it. It's not a utilization argument; it's a conscious argument. It's an argument that says, this is so offensive to my moral standing. This so offends my view of the world that I cannot allow, in good conscience, I cannot allow my tax dollars subsidizing this service. That's the argument that
Yeah.
Henry Hyde raised, and that's the argument that Joe Biden seconded, and that those days equivalent of the Roms and the Axelrods said, "Oh, we got to move right to win over Middle America, get those suburban voters." So yeah, then all these Dems are like, "Oh yeah, you can't ask somebody to pay for something that just offends his view of the world." So what's your response to that?
That people are always going to be offended by something. They're offended by war. They're offended by parks. They're offended by bike lanes. People have opinions, but this particular issue about low income people having access to healthcare is always the one that gets people all up in their feelings. And again, I think part of that, to your point about Dems, it's in 76 and beyond, just bowing down to others to try and get the least, has just made it worse and worse over time. And I think after Roe, people on the good guys side stopped pushing as hard, and the antis pushed real hard, and they dug their heels in. And 50 years later, they got their win, and they're going to keep trying to get those wins. But people are always going to be pissed about something, and if it's about women getting access, low income women getting access to healthcare, then they can F off.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you on that. That's kind of how I would respond. I could have actually list 10 things that my government is currently funding on a local level and a national level that offend my conscience. And nobody's changing the law right now. There's a debate going on. I'm going to throw this at you. about subsidizing private education. Donald Trump got this law passed, and the money would go in the form of tax credits to people who donate to private schools. And I'm watching Dems, my beloved Dems. I'm watching Dems go, "Oh yeah, we can't turn down tax dollars coming back. We have to take this." And they're also thinking, "Oh, well, I'm going to go get the voter, who wants to take advantage of this, or I'm going to get the voter who hates the teachers unions, and so I'm going to move to the right." And it's the same old, Julie. We're actually undercutting public education with this bill. We're actually undercutting public education. So every Dem should be standing up to it. But I'm watching it. I could give you 10 other examples of that, Julie. You hear what I'm saying?
It's like Mad Libs with any of these issues. You just fill in the blank with whatever marginalized community is going to be kicked to the curb because somebody else is going to get something better. And it just keeps happening over and over again.
Unless we take a stand, which brings us to close to where you began, the No Kings March. And you will be there. What do you hope to see from that No Kings March? Go ahead.
I hope to see people who have come out forever to these protests, but also people who have never come out before. I think that it's really a great opportunity for people to get together and, not just sit there in their armchair activism of, rage scrolling and watching cable news, but like rather to be around people and have some conversations about things and actually get out into the streets, hear about organizations that are doing work on the ground locally. And it's not just about this national thing, but how you can get involved locally. I always talk about the importance of local elections, local organizing, because Illinois does look the way that it looks in terms of progressive policy because of our local leaders. And so as much as this event is about no kings federally, we need to keep that mentality locally and get involved with local organizations. And that's what this thing is all about.
All right, Julie, one more time. I'm going to show you. I was paying attention. It's Saturday, and it starts at 1:30 p.m. It's at Grant Park. If you're in the Chicago area, and we have listeners who are not in the Chicago area, go look it up on the internet. You guys are smarter than I am about internets, and you can find it because there's all over the country. Correct, Julie?
Yeah, it's the third national mobilization that organizations are putting on. And Indivisible Chicago, along with Hands Off Chicago, and all of the organizations that are involved in that coalition are really the ones leading the charge here.
And Donnie is going to rip you guys, and he's going to say you're un-American. He's going to say you're committing treason, and he's going to get all his little flunkies to say the same thing.
Didn't he do the AI video of dumping poop on Chicago at the last one?
That is correct.
That was cute.
Was it Chicago in particular that it was? I don't know. But yes, that was. That's your president.
I mean, the fact that is a thing that I just said out loud that came from a president, and that like he's done so many of those wild AI videos, and who knows, he could have done other dumping poop on city videos, but it's like that has become a norm, and that is so unbelievably unokay.
I am with you 100%. I listen. I can't believe I can't believe that things have changed so much that he still got away with his Obama video that he dropped. We talked about that on the show. I forget, it was about a month ago before he launched the war in Iran. So,
like a little moment in history.
Yeah, it was like one day. I remember that I think it was a Friday, and following that, the way that played out with his like it wasn't even, you can't even call it an apology what he did.
But also even the semi like call outs from members of the Republican Party are essentially the equivalent of a strongly worded letter. It was doing nothing.
Yes.
Like they had to say something, yes. Otherwise they would look like scumbags. But they said, but what are you going to do about it? Again, and people say this all the time, like if it was an Obama doing a video like that, people would lose their ever-loving minds. I mean, you think about the tan suit or the saluting holding the coffee cup, and
Yeah.
people went crazy.
Yeah. Well, MAGA went crazy. But yeah, that's a whole other conversation. I
Right.
did not go crazy. Okay. I didn't even understand why they mad about a tan suit.
No, I
Uh,
don't. I still don't understand the
yeah,
tan suit.
I didn't get that. He looked good. I don't know. Um, all right, Julie, thank you so much. Appreciate it. And particularly under these circumstances, you know what I'm talking about. So thank you very much, dear friend of the show, Julie Lynn. Everybody show up. Say hi to Julie. She'll be somewhere in Grant Park doing something important for the rally. All right.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, very good. That's Julie Lynn. I also want to thank producer Chris. He does an outstanding job. I know Julie agrees with me. Say, hey, producer Chris, give yourself a raise. Take it out of petty cash. Peace and love, everybody.